The King of the Iron Fist Tournament 8 has finally arrived, and in fact it's actually been out for quite a period of time. But as you know, I'm a patience gamer and we definitely make sure to take our time and make sure to get to these great titles once the hype has died down a little bit. Tekken is a special series that has been close to my heart for many years. While other countries and other nations were enthralled by franchises such as Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, where I'm from over here in South Africa, Tekken 5 was littered everywhere. Wherever you could get your hands on a PlayStation 2, Tekken 5 was not far away. Going to Spur, going to wherever they had a console available, Tekken 5 was those games that you would play with the other kids around you. And ever since that day my mother bought me Tekken for my very own PlayStation, it's been my favorite fighting franchise, and I'm definitely excited to tell you my thoughts on this special title. Tekken 8 is an absolutely exhilarating fighting game that brings the genre and the visual spectacle of gaming to absolutely brand new heights. Welcome to my Patience Gamer review of Tekken 8. Now, I've mentioned this before, but I want to start right off with the visuals this time around, because for me personally, going to Tekken 7, it was probably one of my biggest gripes with that game. I was unsatisfied with the graphical leap, especially considering how impressive Tekken Tag Tournament 2 was in terms of visuals. I'm talking about the character models, the environments, and just the overall detail that were able to be achieved playing hardware. In my personal opinion, Tekken 7 was in fact a step back from a visual perspective. But Tekken 8 definitely remedies this issue in extreme fashion. Tekken 8 is undoubtedly one of the best looking games out on the market right now. I played this title in a glistening 4K 60 frames per second, and even though my GPU couldn't exactly handle that quality, I switched on FSR upscaling to quality mode to ensure that I got a crystal clear image. Even though I was forced to use this upscaling technology, it's not that it had been implemented unnecessarily. Tekken 8 is just simply that high end of a game that is going to bring even the most high end GPUs to its knees, and hopefully your CPU is also up to the task. Tekken 8 is one of the most gorgeous games you'll ever play, and it will definitely bring your GPU to its knees, making its temperatures run as hot as you've ever seen them. Even though I had to use FSR, the amount of details and particles packed into every single frame is simply astonishing. I'm maybe not a fan of some of the character model changes, particularly like Steve and Paul Phoenix. Regardless of that, they are still jammed packed to the brim with exquisite detail. Just looking at Kazuya's jackets, bro, like just absolutely wow. You can see every single design in that jagged leather that you can see on his cool purple jacket. This title is a clear display of the great height that can be achieved with the great engine of Unreal Engine 5. Once again, we have reached the point in gaming where we are no longer restricted by the technology around us, but we are only restricted by the creativity of the developers. Now, if you didn't know, Tekken 7 actually had significant budget restraints. This wasn't just out of nowhere, it was because of the disappointing revenue streams of Tekken 6 and for Tekken Tag Tournament 2. I can understand for Tekken 6 as there were some aspects of that game which I wasn't too happy about, and yeah, I'm just not a fan of that title in general. The story mode was interesting and experimental, and we can actually see some of those aspects still implemented into Tekken 8 with the Horde mode where you fight multiple opponents all at once, but regardless of that, it was just okay. Tekken Tag Tournament 2 on the other hand was an absolutely phenomenal game, and for the individuals who focus on the single player content, they were personally quite happy with it. I do understand though that the competitive environment who focus mainly and primarily on the online were quite unhappy with the balancing in many other aspects. Despite all that, passion projects are not always lucrative, and Harada and the entire Tekken team suffered because of that. But luckily, because Tekken 7 was such a success and they also opened the franchise to every single platform, they're able to recoup those funds and pump it so Tekken 8 could truly fly. And despite all of that, I would still recommend you, if you have access to a PlayStation 3 system, to go ahead and give Tekken Tag Tournament 2 a try. It's a legendary passion project where you can see the love put into every single intricacies of the game, even to the ending screens with the interactions with each character combinations. Despite my love for that title, when push comes to shove, we need to let such things go. Tekken 8 is a technical marvel, and I'll be honest, probably only maybe a 4080 or a 4080 Super or a 7900 XTX would be able to play this at its full capabilities with TSR maxed to 100 comfortably at a 4K resolution though. But if you're somebody who's still on a 1440p or a 1080p monitor, you should be quite comfortable, and I think you should be able to max this out just fine. Now these days in the PC community, we're used to experiencing many titles which experience poor optimization, bad development, and they just haven't taken the time to really optimize these games well. Tekken is not that case, it's just too good, way too good. Now you all know the saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They've definitely taken that stance to heart, and if you're somebody who's played previous Tekken games, probably from Tekken 5 up until this point, you'll be very comfortable with this title. Now despite me saying that there definitely have been a few enhancements to the gameplay, power crushes are still here and just as effective as they've always been. I'd say the only difference is that these power crushes used to be the difference between you winning and sometimes losing a fight. The difference is that Tekken 8 gives you the option to actually come back from losing all of that health. You now have the ability to use heat and rage attacks to replenish your lost health as long as the white border outline still remains behind. This makes it so that if you're an individual who relies heavily on these type of moves to win your fights, you can definitely be tactful and use these abilities to bring back some of that lost health. Heat has also been improved as there are more possible combos with heat activated. You can even activate heat from the very beginning of the fight by pressing the heat button. Now we very much know that games such as Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat are very well known for using their power abilities during combat. Tekken has definitely taken the decision to add more of these things into their games. By activating heat at any moment, you can actually use something called a heat smash, which is essentially a weaker version of your rage art, and activate it to do a pretty cool combo if you can land it on your opponent at any moment in the match. After activating heat, you can use an automatic heat combo that eats up all of your heat, but you can't break out of it once your opponent is caught into the combo. So now you essentially have two moves to watch out for: rage art and heat smashes. They have also chosen to make every single attack look more flashy by adding more visual effects to every single attack. Leg swipes and downward sweeping attacks will leave a trail of neon to add more pizzazz to the entire experience. This has been done for most attacks, so even if you don't do an attack that brings out a large amount of damage, it's still going to look cool. Tekken 8 comes back with a story mode of a similar style to that in Tekken 7. It seems like we're finally wrapping up the Mishima saga as we return to Jin as the main protagonist. Jin Kazama returns with some control of the devil gene, but when you get to the thick of it, it's a little bit more complicated than that. If you're somebody who enjoys shonen anime, this story feels a lot like Bleach. I'll leave it there and let you find out how good the story is for yourself. I personally enjoyed it, but it isn't a story that's going to absolutely blow you away. It gives you a good reason to keep playing through and see these very cool and well-produced cutscenes. The campaign isn't long at all, but it personally was long enough for me as I chose the hard difficulty. I died quite a few times, and when you go against a very hack-heavy enemy such as Ultimate Kazuya, it definitely becomes difficult. Tekken 8 provides a serviceable and solid campaign. In comparison to its other fighting game compatriots, I'm not so sure as I'm not so exposed to those other fighting games, but if you're comparing it to the general single player genre, it is on the shorter side, but considering the amount of content that's packed into this package, it'll be enough for you. If you're only buying this game for the single player content, perhaps wait a bit and ensure that you get it on sale or lower your expectations. This is not a single player driven game for the most part. Unfortunately, some cool single player modes are still excluded from the Tekken franchise, such as Team Battle. Story mode on the other hand for the individual characters is also a little bit disappointing for me, as there are only 5 short stage fights with no story in between the final movie and final cutscene at the end. I still remember those cool cutscenes that would come out of nowhere in between the character moments in the story mode. I really miss those aspects, and it's, to me, Tekken 5 is definitely still a game packed with so much single player content for each individual character. In terms of single player content, they have tried by adding something called Tekken Ball, which is essentially fighting beach volleyball. And there is also a shorter arcade side story where you play as a side character that's a bobblehead, like a poorly designed just characters in an arcade mode that will also teach you how to play the game. Tekken is definitely no longer focused on local play, and that's okay. So if you're going to be getting this title, multiplayer definitely should be one of your main motivators. And Tekken multiplayer is as good as it's ever been. It's cool, it's expressive, it's exciting, and it's definitely going to remind you that you don't play Tekken enough and you still need to get your reps in. Now, we've considered most of the significant parts that make up Tekken 8. Now let's consider the statistics and consider if Tekken 8 is still a good value proposition today. It definitely is a great game, but are you going to be getting the value for your buck? If you check on over to GG Deals, if you go ahead and procure Tekken 8, you'll be paying $30.77. This is me looking at the historical lows. So if you're smart and look out at the various stores where this game is available to you, you can get it for $30.77. If you get it via a Q shop, you'll get it for $27. Now, if you're going to be looking to picking up the game over on PlayStation 5, the lowest in which you can pick up this game via the PlayStation Store is $39.89, which expired quite 3 weeks ago, so it's still going to be quite a long time before you get another significant sale. Perhaps also check for this game via a physical edition via your local game store. Now, if you're also on Xbox and are also looking to pick up this game at some point via the official Xbox store, you can get it for $41.99. Via the key shops, you can get it for $30.19. You're definitely not going to be breaking the bank if you pick this game up on a sale. The thing is what I want you to consider is that there are a number of DLC characters that are coming out soon, and I do think a Heihachi single player campaign or extra story will be coming up to essentially explain why he didn't die, or why he was reincarnated, or why he's still alive. Yeah, whatever explanation they come up with, I'm going to be quite interested. This is the only unfortunate thing of dealing with a live service game, which Tekken 8 is, and it's going to be running for quite a few years, is that you might have to keep pulling out your wallet to keep updated if you want to play the new characters. For me personally, with Tekken 7, I bought it very late when the Ultimate Deluxe Edition had been out after the game had been out for 7 years. All the patches have been out, all the characters and DLC had been out, so I had access to all of them. At this point, I do not have access to every single brand new character, as I'm just not trying to kill my wallet in that way. Looking at how long to beat, if you're just playing the main story, you've got about 4 hours of content. If you do some of the main content and some of the side stuff, maybe do some arcade battle, do the arcade story mode, or do some of the character stories, you've got 10.5 hours. If you put this game on the hard difficulty, you can pretty much double that main story playtime to about 8 hours, because it probably took me about 9 hours, with breaks of course in between, to wrap up that entire story. Tekken 8 is a great title. It's a beautiful game with pretty much no technical difficulties or technical frailties. It's one of the best games you'll be able to play right now in 2024. In my personal opinion, as a patient game, I do think it's quite steep to be purchasing it at full price right now in 2024. I would recommend that you actually get it on a sale and then save some of that $30 to buy the new DLC that's going to be coming out quite soon, because that Heihachi trailer came out pretty soon, and I'm excited to see what that's all going to be about. Save that money, buy the extra DLC characters, because maybe one of your mains is actually still coming in the DLC. Maybe you're a Marduk main, maybe you're an Eddie main, maybe you're actually a Heihachi main. So maybe just save that money and get the DLC a little bit later. And considering all the aspects where this team absolutely excelled and the huge amount of hours that you're still going to have if you delve deeper into the multiplayer, Tekken 8 is absolutely a classic. Tekken 8 gets a 9 out of 10 from me. It's a sensational game that I recommend all of you play. If you're someone who hasn't played Tekken in years, this is the time for you to come back. There are very few games that are able to compete with this game visually, and the gameplay is just as good as it's ever been. It's going to take you all the way back. Thank you so much for joining me once again. My name is Explicit Sage. More reviews and content like this is definitely on the way. Like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. I'm out.